Rugby TV rights have largely been a mess here in the UK for over 10 years, and for fans of the English Premiership, things are about to get much worse. Premier Sports have now announced a new partnership with the ECPR to show European matches in both the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup for the upcoming season. As a rugby purist, I appreciate that Premier Sports continues to show commitment, engagement, and progression in their broadcasting partnerships within rugby. And for the rest of the UK, this will create a massive opportunity to supercharge viewership into the URC and in wider Europe too, the top 14. But for the average Joe like me, it becomes yet another expenditure to another subscription service during a particularly awkward economic time. BT Sports slash TNT Sports' move to Discovery Plus at least presented more bang for your buck with a largely substandard streaming service bolted onto a lofty subscription that I'd pay to watch the pleasure of a rainy night in Newcastle. But that to me was the price you pay for top-notch entertainment. However, there are rumours that Discovery Plus have been given multiple opportunities to bid for European and international rugby and have chosen against it. This is due to what they perceive as a decline in engagement during the international season. They believe, rightfully so, that most go to the pub or watch in larger audiences around a singular television to engage with international sport, and thus they'd rather stick to a brand of the sport that is difficult to catch outside of your front room. This, to me, seems nonsensical, as the Rugby World Cup continues to obliterate rugby TV viewing numbers every 4 years, regardless of the turnout at your village local. The Rugby World Cup in France had a cumulative TV audience of 800 million, and although this was a decline of 7% from the previous tournament in Japan, we have to remember the viewership that was likely lost when the likes of Australia bumped out of the group stages, or when France and Ireland were defeated in the quarter-finals, significant rugby watching populations in either country. Even if the statistics were true, which I'm sure there are some Power BI dashboards out there proving that there is a disparity between cost and viewing numbers, then that kind of signifies the commitment Discovery Plus have to improving the game. With that being said, returning to the point of this video, what can the average UK rugby fan expect to pay to have a full rugby watching experience in a single season? Let's start with Discovery Plus, as it comes in as one of the most expensive streaming services at £30.99 per month. For that, you get access to the majority of Premiership games per year. Please note, however, against inflation, the loss of Worcester Warriors and Wasps in the top flight has meant that for an increased price, you now get 6 less rounds of rugby per year. In 2022, BT Sports cost £24 per month. But for that, you would receive those extra 6 rounds plus another 63 matches in the Champions Cup and 20 in the Challenge Cup. Pre-shrinkflation, that is a 29.12% increase in price in the last 2 years, which alone is pretty awful. But including shrinkflation for this upcoming season, in which you lose 44.62% of the games that you had access to just last season, that signifies a minimum of a 115.22% increase in price per game watched this season. With the Rugby Championship currently blossoming on Sky Sports, I guess we need to add that bundle into the mix as well. Now, I don't have my internet with Sky, so I'd have to pay the minimum pleasure of £34.99 in order to watch the world champions play Australia this weekend. That too is a price that has dramatically inflated over the last half decade, but it's really difficult to put an accurate percentile on what that increase really looks like. Since we've spoken about them already, Premier Sports will be an absolute necessity this year, as last year's European tournaments ended up being real all-timers. This new iteration of European rugby is finally managing to meet the reputation it once had in the glory days of the noughties. Luckily, this is a far more agreeable amount at just £10.99 per month, or the price of a full English at a bang average gentrified cafe. Controversially, you also have to throw in your UK TV licence in there for BBC, as missing the Six Nations would be a crime in most countries. Unfortunately, that's another £15 per month that you won't get back, but at least you'll have the pleasure of watching Strictly later in the evenings. Amazon Prime also regularly get access to international rugby, in particular during the Autumn Nations tours, now tournaments, and will likely make a big bid for the future cup. Who would have thought the right suitors for a cash grab tournament nobody wanted would be the biggest conglomerate in the world? £8.99 per month will get you access to the greatest players in the game and also rapid delivery on your next Udi. Now, thank goodness that the majority of Rugby Pass's content is free, as they are doing God's work when it comes to giving access to the sport we love, but let's run the numbers on what this is going to cost you per month and per year. So you will have to pay a whopping £100.96 per month in order to watch rugby if you choose to entertain top flight competitions. That's £1,211.52 per year during a time in which cost of living dominates the news cycle. For that same price, I could have access to endless content on Disney Plus, Netflix, Prime, Apple TV, Now TV, Paramount Plus, and Hulu put together. I could also purchase a 2014 Hyundai i10 with 85,375 miles on the clock. Now, I have to insist that Premier Sports aren't the bad guys here by any means. And as previously mentioned, they have an incredible price, incredible content, and they are a great source for top flight rugby around Europe and South Africa. But with Gate declining in the Premiership and now locking such a small amount of content behind such a harsh paywall, further compartmentalizes a sport that keeps signaling that it wants to grow. So, English Premiership rugby fans, I'd be keen to hear about what your thoughts are in the comment section down below and whether you will be investing in a new Premier Sports subscription. If you like this video, make sure you leave a like. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you're watching this on TikTok, follow for more rugby content.